In this final mini project, we're going to work on this checkout page for H+ Sport. Have you ever noticed how many checkout pages require us to enter the city, the state, and the zip, or postal code? This always drives me just slightly nuts, because if I know that postal code, I can look up the city and state from it, and save customers a few keystrokes. We're going to fix this form so it queries an API for the city and state and fills in those fields for us. There's a simple-to-use commercial service that offers a RESTful API to help with this. This is where I first heard about this kind of functionality for programming. It's called Ziptastic, and if you're going to do this professionally, check them out. You could even use them now if you'd like. The service is called the Forward Geocoding API. Version 3 is their commercial version, but they still have their free version, version 2, available as of the time I'm recording this. If you make a call to version 2 and pass in a zip code, you get back these kind of answers that we'll be using later. But to save you from having to read any more documentation, there's a little API included in the exercise files for this course, but you'll need a local web server to run it. And in general, when working with web requests in JavaScript, a web server is kind of a must. Trying to use third-party services from a file URL, as we're doing here, is not possible in any web browser due to the security features they all have. I'm using MAMP, which is available for free for macOS and Windows. There's also a pro version that you could pay for. There's also XAMPP, available for Windows, Linux, and macOS, and various other options as well. For more information on local web servers, you can look at the course Installing Apache, MySQL, and PHP. Basically, what we need for our purposes is just to be able to have a web server that can run PHP to run our little API file. We do not need any databases for this. I've copied the exercise files from my desktop into the MAMP folder from which the web server does its work. By default for MAMP, that's the htdocs folder inside MAMP's application folder. I've also renamed the exercise files from exercise files to just X files, so there's no space in the URL. With that done, I just open up the MAMP control panel, started the web servers using the button that previously said start and now says stop. And with that, I can load the API. I can also load the exercise files right off my web server. This starts out at localhost port 8888 and then following the path down to the exercise files. This is our work in progress folder, and this is the API. It looks like this. It's in chapter 6, API index.php, and then we pass in a query parameter of zip with a zip code of some kind for a United States city. I'm using 91601 here, North Hollywood in California. And as you can see, the answers that Ziptastic and the version that we're using are quite similarly structured. So we could use either one for these examples. MAMP uses this funky 8888 port, which your web server might not use. And certainly it's not used on the internet. So we'll change this in the MAMP preferences just to try and keep everybody synced up. Over here in MAMP, I'm going to open its preferences. And here in the Ports tab, I'm going to change this to the default ports. MAMP even provides a button for this. 80 and 80 for its web servers, and MySQL if we cared about the database. For now, we do not. Now MAMP is going to reload itself. You might have to enter your administrative password to make this work. There we go. It loads up its start page, and there's no port here. So I'll close this, switch back over to my browser, and I'm going to peel off the port. Just confirm that this still works, and it does. Same with the exercise files over here. So with that port reconfigured, we're ready. Our setup is done. We've seen the API that we'll be working with, and we're ready to start solving this problem.